Chapter 51 Shivani Eye Camp. Shivani is 80 miles from Nagpur station, where the volunteers had come to receive us with vehicles for our onward journey. All of them seemed to be old acquaintances, except me, and I felt as though they stared at me as a stranger. I looked aside in confusion. On the next day at 5 a.m., early in the morning, Pujya Shri reached the camp, and with eagerness and enthusiasm, I too went for darshan. He was seated on a coir mattress spread on a wooden cot. Due to extreme cold, in addition to his normal attire, he had put on a light brown shawl and similar cap. The devotees would offer pranam one by one, and he would say a few words to each one. At my turn, I approached and offered my reverential pranam, but he did not even glance in my direction. I was choked with frustration and tears welled up in my eyes. On getting out of the room, I wondered, why have I come here? Should I return to Bombay forthwith? Yet something held me back. With supreme efforts, I held back my tears and took a round of the camp. All around I saw different structures made of bamboo chips and Hessian cloth. The camp had 4 different types of kitchen with cloth banners bearing their names. For the Mahatmas, the patients, Gujrati kitchen, and for the doctors. In the open, right in the middle of 8 wards, a few chairs and tables were kept, with a medical kit for nurses and volunteers. In one corner there stood a brass water container with drinking water for patients. A little distance away there was a shack with board tea house, and the warm aroma of boiling tea leaves was enough to dissipate the cold. The provision store contained quilts and blankets, and in the grain store there were sacks full of wheat, rice, containers of ghee, edible oils, and other provisions. Right in the center of the store was a cot covered with coir mattress, obviously for Gurudev to sit there when he paid a visit to issue instructions. Outside the compound and at the entrance, there was an inquiry office with telephone and postal facilities. At 9 a.m. sharp, in the presence of Gurudev, the doctors started examining patients. Dr. Chabil Bhai, Doctors Joglekar, Zaveri, Joshi and Dave were encircled by the patients. Those admitted were given green, yellow and pink badges to wear around the neck, according to the type of eye disorder that was being treated, with their names, addresses, and also with ward, cot, and line number. The diagnostic center was crowded, yet the work of examination proceeded with speed and precision. Seeing the sorry plight of patients, I was drawn nearer, but was promptly repelled by their smelly bodies and mouths, and I stepped back. Suddenly a partially blind old lady stumbled, lost her stick, and collided with my back. She caught hold of me for support and narrated her sorry plight of having been separated from the group from her village. She said she was lonely and helpless, and she had no one to turn to. Her tears of anguish brought about a change in my mindset. It was as though Lord Narayan, in the guise of this poor helpless lady, was testing me, and thus far I had failed in the test. Seeing the green card on the old lady's neck indicating a cataract patient, I profoundly repented my mistake, and I slowly led her to the queue of similar patients to be admitted to the particular ward. Throughout that day, I did similar work, and it gave me immense joy and peace of mind to be of real service to the needy. In the night, I slept peacefully, resolving not to go to the Guru Mandir the next day. With great efforts, I had overcome my inborn skepticism about saints and Mahatmas and had placed my faith in this one, who acted as though he totally rebuffed my faith and devotion. My ego was hurt and damaged beyond repair. Yet, on the next day, involuntarily, my steps turned towards Guru Mandir. But suddenly I halted at the door with hesitation. Pujya Shri smilingly called me to him with the words, "Your name must be Damayanti." Valjibai told me in Bombay that his daughter had gone to Shivani as volunteer and that I should look after her. Now I gathered courage enough to advance further inside the room, while Gurudev added, "Listen, are you quite comfortable? If you have any difficulty, you may come to me at any time you wish. Now take this." So saying, he gave me as prasad a handful of cashews, which I accepted and offered pranam and ran to my quarters with tearful eyes. These were not mere empty words from Gurudev, but an antidote to my mental anguish of yesterday. My racing mind conjured up questions and answers like why did he express so much concern and love, and what was expected from me? Because in my limited experience so far, I had not come across love without reciprocal expectation. I also gave the replies, "Of course the kindness is for yesterday's act of ignoring me. What else?" The frivolous mind wandered once again. Was yesterday's rebuff true, or was today's compassion true? Finally my faith spoke out. The seeming indifference was for due atonement for past skepticism about saints, and by way of punishment for past misdeeds. Such a divine and kind saint can never be cruel to anyone. Even their apparent harshness would be for the ultimate good of the disciples. The proper analogy here would be that a doctor would never harm his patient, even if he cuts up the patient's stomach to remove some defective part. He would stitch up the same with the loving care and caution. By such introspection, I regained my peace of mind totally and completely. So far, during the past 18 years of my life, I had come across mere pretense, hypocrisy, and a vacuous mentality to get entertained by movies, dramas, and parties. In this place, such things were totally absent. There was a tendency to see and feel the presence of God in all beings. The entire atmosphere was permeated by the presence of one superhuman, whose desire was to make everyone practice the dictum, "Good deeds alone are akin to godliness." Though the entire camp was at his command, yet it was a matter of pleasant surprise to me that Gurudev could take all this love, devotion, respect and reverence in his stride without the slightest feeling of ego in his thoughts or actions. On the appointed day at 9 a.m., Pujya Shri came to the operation theatre. One by one, all the doctors garlanded him and offered their pranam by placing his hands on the head of each by way of blessing. He wished them success in all their operations. After that, prayer, praising the Almighty and the Guru, was recited with an invocation to God to make all beings happy, healthy, and capable of good deeds at all times. Dr. Joshi performed the first operation in 2.5 minutes and placed the cataract in Gurudev's eyes, and the entire operation theatre reverberated with the chants of Sadgurudev ki jai. A Western lady, Mrs. Bernard, aged about 70, used to go around the camp enthusiastically, as though spellbound. At the approach of Gurudev, she would offer pranam in Western fashion by kneeling down and bowing her head. Her husband had come to India on behalf of the American government to deliver lectures on benefits of vegetarian diet. While in Bombay, at the World Theosophical Congress, when they heard from Dinubhai that a great saint had organized an eye camp for 25 days where 3,000 to 4,000 eye operations were expected to be carried out, they could not believe it. Dr. Bernard said that in America, if about 50 operations were carried out, it would be a matter of wonder and high acclaim. He expressed a desire to see the eye camp in person and asked Dinubai to take him along with him. However, at the last moment, Dr. Bernard couldn't come out, but Mrs. Bernard came with Dinubai. On the way, Mrs. Bernard asked Dinubai, "When can we see Gurudev? It takes us days to meet the Pope." Dinubai replied, "Our Gurudev is available to all and around the clock." When they reached the camp, Pujya Shri was seated in the veranda, and after his darshan, Mrs. Bernard was overcome with emotions. Throughout the day, she would go around the camp and tell whosoever stopped to talk to her, "I find that everything here is so peaceful and miraculous." As was usual for an eye camp, on the concluding day, the patients were given a sumptuous meal of shira, a new pair of clothes, and to those who needed, train fare for their return journey. Since they had never been treated with such kindness and compassion, they agreed to return with a lot of reluctance, all the while chanting praise for Shri Gurudev. Gurudev's spirited parting words to them were, "When we were born, the pain of separation from God made us cry out as a child, while people around us laughed in celebration of our birth. Therefore our life should be so conducted, by being of service to others, that at our departure or death, we can leave this world with a smile on our face, while the people around us would be immersed in sadness at our death." Before leaving for Bombay, I asked Gurudev for his autograph on the photo, and he said, "In times of difficulties, our best friend is patience. Ranchoddasji with blessings, Shivani." As if this reflected my anguish and mental tension for the first 2 days. A total of 3,300 operations were performed at Shivani. Let me repeat my feelings here. My soul doth magnify the Lord, and my spirit has rejoiced in God, my Saviour. For he hath regarded the low estate of mine, and henceforth generations will call me blessed. Blessed. Jai Bhagwan. Chapter 52. Sujalpur Camp. Right from Guna till today, Dr. Chabil Bhai diligently and devotionally discharged the duties of honorary secretary for all the camps. Because his family members felt that on account of devoting so much time to the camps, his practice would suffer, they objected to the same. When the family failed to convince him, the matter finally reached Gurudev's notice. Pujya Shri wrote to him explaining that after all the arrangements for the operations were well set and the doctors were assigned their tasks, instead of staying till the end, he should return to Bombay to his practice. Chabil Bhai replied that he would not leave, thus even if it meant damage to his practice, all he needed was Gurudev's permission. Pujya Shri replied, "All my doubts about you are cleared. Your steadfast devotion obliges me to give you permission to do as you think fit. I pray that God may give you courage and energy to carry on this noble work. My blessings are always with you." And added, "When you have surrendered yourself unto God, there is nothing to worry about. Do come to Sujalpur." And Chabil Bhai did come with a joyous heart. The camp began on the 8th of February 1959. Dr. and Mrs. Bernard, who had come from Mexico, were highly impressed by the excellent organization of the camp and speed of the operation. They had never seen thousands taking meals on leaf plates and enjoyed watching them at dinner. They told Gurudev, "We have need for similar camps in Mexico. Would you come over there?" Gurudev replied, "We would certainly come and do all the work at our own expenses, but will your church permit it? They replied in a resigned voice, "You are right, the local church may not like it." The camp concluded on the 22nd of February with 4,500 operations. Saint Shri Girdhar Bapa, present head of the Virpur ashram of Jalaram Bapa, had come to Sujalpur. He requested Gurudev, "Bhagwan, when I went to Badrinarayan last year, I thought that there ought to be a dharamshala and sadhu seva arrangement over there." When Gurudev agreed, Girdhar Bapa added, "Though I can arrange for funds, I cannot undertake such a difficult task." Gurudev said, "Well, don't you worry. All other arrangements can be managed." Bhagat Bapa was happy and left after confirming all working details. Gurudev then called Charitra-Dasji and told him, "Though Vaishnav Dasji can look after this job of Hanuman Chati, I think that it would be better if you go." Though Charitra-Dasji obeyed, his health deteriorated due to extreme cold over there, and location of the proposed Anna Kshetra had to be shifted to Pandukeshwar. As desired by Bhagat Bapa, that ashram was named Shri Ranchoddasji Charitable Ashram, and during the season for pilgrimage, about 50 to 60 Mahatmas are served dinner daily. The work of building a dharamshala at Badrinarayan was entrusted to Shri Lakshmi Chand Bhai, and the same was completed in 2 years and inaugurated by Pujya Shri. Jai Bhagwan. Chapter 53. Gurudev's Rameshwar Yatra. From Sujalpur, accompanied by some devotees, Gurudev started for Rameshwar. There is a story behind this visit. During September 1958, when Gurudev was in Rajkot ashram, Nenshi Ada, who was weak with illness, had gone for darshan, but due to large crowd of devotees, he had to return home without seeing Gurudev. Later, Harshad Bhai wrote a note to Pujya Shri that Ada was very ill and pining for his darshan. Gurudev immediately went to him and on seeing his grave condition instructed Devkaran Bhai in Bombay to come to Rajkot immediately, and also informed him that now Ada would be with them only for a few days. In order to be at the bedside of his father, Devkaran Bhai came at once. After a few days, while Gurudev was in Jamnagar, Ada's health deteriorated further, and he wished for Bapu's last darshan. Gurudev returned to Rajkot and reached Ada's bedside around 1:30 p.m. on 17 September while he was breathing his last. Pujya Shri asked him lovingly, "Nenshi Bhai, do you wish to tell me something?" Ada spoke with difficulty in a soft voice, "I wish to go to Rameshwar and offer Ganga Jal." He firmly believed that those who went to Rameshwar and offered Ganga Jal would achieve liberation from this endless cycle of birth, death, and rebirth. Gurudev kindly replied, "At this stage it is impossible, but I will do so on your behalf, and the punya that accrues thereby shall be yours." When he found Ada still unconvinced, he called for water from the house, and with that in his hands, he repeated what he had promised to Nenshi Bhai as a solemn promise. Now, Ada was at last convinced and contented, and he regained his peace of mind. After some time, Gurudev came out of the room and told all the relatives present over there, "Now he will be with us hardly for a couple days, and you should look after him." After meeting with Gurudev, Ada passed the remaining time in peace and contentment. Exactly on the second day, around 1:30 p.m., he breathed his last. It was thus that Pujya Shri had to go especially to Rameshwar, and he fulfilled the promise he made to Ada and offered Ganga Jal ceremoniously on behalf of Nenshi Bhai. Jai Bhagwan. Chapter 54 Satna I Camp. The first operation was performed on 24th November 1959. Shri Kailashnath Katju, the Chief Minister of MP, who had extended full cooperation for the camp, asked Gurudev, "The government, despite all its resources and after spending large amounts, is not able to achieve what you have done. How could you manage such a difficult task with such meager resources?" Gurudev replied, "When the government servant works, he works as a part of his duties as a salaried employee, whereas our volunteers in the camp do the same task with the inborn and firm conviction that they are rendering service to their helpless brethren, and they are their own kith and kin. Undoubtedly, the work is tiring, but when love mingles with service, one is neither tired nor bored. They not only ignore fatigue, but often they forego sleep and food for long hours. The secret of our success lies in these volunteers' unceasing and selfless devotion to the cause." Ranchoddasji, who had returned from Badrinarayan due to ill health, was advised by Gurudev to work in the community kitchen so that his work over there would cleanse and cure him of all illnesses. In fact, after serving in the kitchen, as advised by Gurudev, Haricharanji became well without any medication whatsoever. Once, both Haricharanji and Vaishnavdasji, who were working together in the kitchen, came to Gurudev with the complaint, whereby both of them said, "He is bossing over me," and blamed each other. Having listened to them with patience, Gurudev said with a sweet smile, "I am fully convinced that both of you are right. So here I am, both of you can now boss over me. Okay?" At this, they felt ashamed of their pettiness and left quietly after offering their pranam. Truly, every one of their children feel like running to their father, expecting a little more love and extra attention. But when they experience the pure love of their father equally for all of them, they at once give up their petty bickerings. With a tally of 4,500 operations, the camp concluded on 15th December 1959. Jai Bhagwan. Sarve Sukhina Santu, Sarve Santu Niramaya, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma Kaschit Dukham Apnuyat.